We're back.
Back in this hot seat.
You're wearing the same outfit you were wearing last time.
I know, I've back-to-backed hat, which is not good for reels.
Sometimes I had to wear my grey jumper because I wore my turquoise jumper last time, and after the edit it came out blue, and I don't have a blue jumper.
Right.
Fun facts brought to you by the Stay Hungry podcast. So,
Actually, a fun fact on that, if you're ever doing a content day, always take a change of outfit, a change of jumper. I saw Neil did that in his live event, even though he wasn't, in case anyone took photos. Changed the old jumper.
did he?
Yeah.
Was it not just because he was warm?
Or cold, but no, I don't think so.
What a
He always
boy.
does it.
What a boy. Right, so today we're talking about hearing versus listening, the secret to true connection in business. Sounds like an AI-made title.
And that is because...
It is.
It is.
But no, the difference between hearing and listening, so a lot of people say they're listening. What they mean is they're not speaking. And it's that whole, like, people don't just want to feel listened to, they want to feel heard. And particularly clients, but like, we've had a situation where we're a client and I really don't feel heard. Wonder where I got this idea from. And it's infuriating. It's like, but I've told you that. But I've told you that. But I've told you that. No, you haven't. Well, here's where I told you.
And even if like a client is happy or like they're getting results, they still want to feel heard and listened to.
Yeah. They want to know that you know, much like they want to know that you've understood when something's bad, they want to know that you've understood when something's good, and like that you share in their elation.
Yeah, I've just had this with a client where like they have a creative itch, I feel, that needs to be scratched. Even though I know the creative that I've put forward I know which creative is going to outperform all the others, but I'm going to give them another creative just so that they feel listened to, that, oh, we want to do something with this, which I know the cost per is going to be way higher on that image, but they feel listened to, and it didn't take me too much time.
Yeah, so it's a good move because you're managing the client at the same time as managing the campaign.
And even though they'll have got the result, or they're getting the result, they've got this itch that needs to be scratched. And so I got the back scratcher out and scratched hard.
Jesus Christ. So I guess like the difference is like listening can be very passive. Hearing is active. And like sometimes we'll be briefing a client, or even like when you're in a group environment, if you're and I can be guilty of this, if you're the person making the most noise, you're probably not making the most of that situation.
Yeah.
And actually sometimes, like something I quite enjoy doing that I sometimes sort of deliberately do, and it sounds patronising, but it isn't, but like platform the quiet person to see what they have to say.
And so what do you think?
Yeah, like
you do that to me on this podcast, and I'm like,
yeah, and I do it. You've seen me do it in meetings, but like I'll do it in a social circumstance sometimes, because like, you know, if you're all like, oh, where should we go for dinner? And there's always that one person that never says anything, and I always want to know what they think.
Yeah.
Because they're the person that never feels heard, because they wouldn't speak up, but that's just because their method of communication isn't to like shout everyone down or have a group vote,
or maybe they just go for the easy life of...
Yeah, and like I've got a couple of friends that will literally eat food they don't like to save aggravation, and I hate that.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather they get a say sometimes.
I'd rather be the person... I hate choosing a place, just because like if it's shit, everyone's like, oh, your Martha chose this place. It's like, somebody else made the decision.
Yeah. Bit like when everyone chose to have Italian when we were in Barcelona, and it made me really ill. Love that.
That was more of a housing issue.
That tapas place must have been good.
We also
You don't have a queue like that if you're not good.
Yeah, but I don't think that place had ever had the amount of people in it that we were trying to get.
Yeah, there was more of us than you could fit in the restaurant. We needed to go there for breakfast, not dinner.
Yeah.
But yeah, it isn't, you know, like when people are like, you get characters who are so certain and I can be that character sometimes, that you end up somewhere where maybe the majority don't want to be, and so people haven't been heard. But yeah, I guess like in business as well, miscommunication is such an issue. And miscommunication doesn't just mean that the person that said it badly. It might mean that the person that listened badly. And like as a business owner, that can be really frustrating because I can feel like I've given very clear instructions. But if I haven't made sure those instructions have been heard, that's bad leadership. And that happens, and then you lose hours of time on a campaign, or something gets misinterpreted. And like an easy way to overcome that in business is to say it, then write it down.
Yeah. I mean, a good thing that I'm doing right now is every email I send to a client, I put it into ChatGPT and say, please make all of the points super clear so the person receiving the emails knows exactly what action points they need to take. And it's like night and day.
With the responses you're getting.
Yeah. And I don't even have to think about how to make it clearer.
Yeah, you've already said, you've written the email, you're just saying to...
And it takes the emotion out because ChatGPT does not have emotions.
Yeah, you're like me. You'll also say, please make this polite and friendly.
Yeah.
Don't make this less bossy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, like, that's the thing is like, there's no excuse to not be listening now because there's like a device called, I think it's called Claude or Claude, I think, Claude AI. So you can buy this device, you can stick it on the back of your phone, but you can take it into any meeting and it'll listen to the whole meeting. It's a bit like Fathom does on Zoom.
Fathom's great. And
then it'll give you a log of the meeting and what everyone said, but this thing will identify all the individuals in the meeting. So you get like a script and timestamps, but...
From like voice recognition?
Yeah, you tell it which voice was which.
Smart.
But then you could like go and ask it questions of the meeting. I'm thinking about doing this. Is that in line with what we discussed?
Yeah.
And it'll be like, yes, no, maybe.
I used to be like so bad at note taking because like, again, you're only listening to the important bits and then, or the bits that you perceive to be important for your role, but maybe was not the main point.
Politely, and mine does the same, your brain wanders. So it's hard for you to sit in a 3-hour meeting and absorb it all, but that doesn't mean you didn't want to.
Yeah.
And so, like me as your kind of manager, I have to be like, I need to double check Martha's got all of that. But now with technology, there's not really any excuse because you've probably turned Fathom on or recorded it or gone back and checked the meeting notes. And it's really, really made a difference. Like an old friend of mine, I say old friend of mine, my old business partner, I don't know why I said it like that. Andy.
Made him sound like he was dead.
An old friend of mine. Back in the war. Andy used to say never trust a waiter or waitress that doesn't write the order down. And I know some places are like, oh, it's impressive if you can remember it all. But do you know what's more impressive?
Getting it right.
Getting the right food.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, like in any situation. If you're not sure, I don't think anyone would be offended by, oh, I just need to record this, or I just need to write it down, or do you mind if I turn my camera on?
Because I used to think people would get funny about like recording this meeting. Like not one person has ever said, oh, I don't want to be recorded.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
Yeah, this is creep. It's an intrusion.
To the point now you don't even ask permission, right?
It just joins.
It's set on there already.
Yeah, I join that. I don't even have to think about it, and then it transcribes the whole thing. I can even type in like, oh, John was saying something about this new AI. And I'll just type in AI, and it will bring up all the points that you said AI, and I can literally see word for word what you said.
Yeah, I love it. Like it's caught a few clients out, right? Like, I hope they're not listening, but. Sometimes people will challenge us on what's been said in a meeting, as happens in any environment, and we can be like, well, no, literally word for word, this is what was said.
This is you saying it.
This is you telling me you wanted it to be green.
Yeah.
No, I said I wanted it to be red. Well, here's the clip of you saying you wanted it to be green. Like, it's not passive aggressive. It's accurate. It's objective.
It's fact, yeah. And I'm working really hard to take the emotion out of things and only work off data.
Yeah. Do you think there's a risk to that?
I don't think I'll ever be able to take my emotion out of it.
Yeah. So you've learnt that from me and Neil to an extent.
Yeah.
But Neil and I are both emotional characters. We both care. So I think the data really matters, but you also have to remember how the data is interpreted matters.
Yeah. Maybe it's more of a redirection thing.
Yeah. So it shouldn't affect your emotions because you should be led by the data. But that doesn't mean it won't affect the client's emotions. And so sometimes you have to think, how are they going to interpret this data? And am I prepared for that? Because it's not always good news. Let's be realistic. But if it is good news, sometimes they don't even know it's good news. So there's a real like subtlety to that, where we're not accountants, we're not solicitors. There's grey areas in what we do, and sometimes what we perceive to be an amazing result based on the data. Like we've had clients that have data-wise been so fantastically successful, they've told us to slow down because it's stressing them out. So it's really hard to strip the emotion out of.
Yeah.
Because we're thinking, oh, they're going to send us champagne. So the next thing they're on their phone telling us to throttle the campaign because they can't cope.
With delivery, yeah.
Mm.
I was also thinking like specifically for like clients who do live delivery, that they can think that 30 people showing up live is a bad result. But regardless, if you have 2 people show up live and they both buy your £6,000 product, and you spend
mind-boggling when like ego-wise, some people would rather 100 people showed up to their webinar and they didn't make any sales than 2 people show up and they make 2 sales.
Yeah.
Or live event or restaurant or seminar, like whatever it might be. And it's like, no, what was the end result? And is it scalable? Like, have we got a template now that we can measure from? And I think it's hard for business owners because they come to us and they think, are these guys actually listening to me? It's like, no, we're listening, but everything that you've been told up to now is fluffy and faff, and we want to cut through all that noise and help you get to where you want to be. And that's, we're listening to where you want to be, not to all the things that you think you need to do to get there.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's quite hard for a business owner to be like, I don't feel like I'm being listened to. It's like, no, you've been listened to big time. We just can see a much. Can you hear people like shouting and screaming?
That?
I can see them. They're like having a great time at the boot of someone's car.
I like wheeling.
She is having a great time. Sorry, like wreck a podcast, but yeah. So yeah, some like I'm struggling to.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. What is so funny? I'm not feeling heard right now at all.
So, yeah, they there's a fine line between a bit. You know, we did an episode.
Someone else got involved now.
Yeah, there's an episode we did recently. Sell them what they want, give them what they need, and sometimes to make someone feel heard, you have to
do the bit that they want,
like you were talking about before, but also what they need. So you can't strip it back to the bare bones, even if you know that will work, because they'll be like, "What the hell are you doing?"
It's too easy.
Like, and sometimes functional's not enough. So if you think like, if you were designing a kitchen, you'd be like, "I just want a functional kitchen." I'm actually going to go outside and throttle someone in a minute. There's a sign on our door saying we're recording.
Loud. Piss off.
I'm losing my train of thought. So yes, like say you want a kitchen designed, there's the functional kitchen. It's got cupboards, a cooker, a microwave, a sink. But people want a bit more than that. But it's like, but the result you wanted was a kitchen.
Yeah.
And so like they won't feel heard. Like you still have to put flair on it. You have to put a cherry on top. And that's in marketing. Sometimes you can get to the result just through the functional kitchen. But to make the person feel heard, feel special, feel listened to, you need to put the cherry on, even if it's not required. And that's like, I would say that goes in all businesses. Like if you're an accountant and your client expects to get their books at year end and, you know, in a timely fashion, so it's okay to submit tax returns and blah, blah, blah. That's just doing the bare minimum. And actually to make them feel heard, maybe you could put a cover letter on that just explains what they're receiving, or send them a little handwritten note to say like, oh, well done on being 27% up on last year. Just something that most other accountants wouldn't think to do that makes that person feel heard.
Even like a card in the post. Like, thank you for this.
This fucking blew my mind. So my wife's just had an operation. And quite a serious operation. She's going to be okay, but it's, you know, she's in a wheelchair at the moment. She's popping in later actually, so she's doing all right on her crutches, so that's good. Well, it's good because her wheelchair's at home and she's not. So, but she obviously, everyone knew she was having this operation. Everyone sees her, even though she's very friendly and like a sensitive, gentle person. Everyone sees her as quite stoic. She just cracks on with life. and it reflected in what happened when she had her operation. The only person that got her a get well soon card was me, like everyone. And but it's because they sent a WhatsApp or rang her or whatever. Like they do care, but they didn't understand.
I was going to say I sent her an Instagram DM.
Yeah, but they don't understand like her love language.
Yeah.
And like, so she didn't feel heard or seen. It was like, it felt impersonal, which is silly because it's not, and she knows that, so she hasn't said a word. She'd be mortified if she heard this.
Does she listen?
No, I don't think she's ever listened to an episode. Keeps me humble. I don't blame her. She has to listen to me rabbit on her home. So I'm gonna fucking kill someone in a minute. I feel so aggressive right now. There's people outside next to a sign that says recording in progress, shouting and screaming. Back in professional mode. Yeah, so she like didn't feel like people acknowledged that something significant had happened. And then I said, well, no, like if someone sent you a WhatsApp message or whatever, that's lovely. And then, but then some people just completely, some of like the people that she thought might be her better friends, completely forgot, never even sent her a message at all. And you're like, I don't know. I'd like to think if it was one of my best mates, I'd probably put it in my calendar just so I don't forget, because it's a.
I think love languages is a huge one, like knowing what makes the person tick, like your client tick.
Oh, she'd probably say I'm talking bollocks. Like she'd be like, I didn't actually care, which is fine. I'm just using it to make the point.
Mine is gift receiving. If anything.
Yeah.
No, mine genuinely is gift giving. So I'm like a big like I love giving people like but then I know
gift.
Other people would be like, oh well that like everyone gets me flowers. I'd rather have a handwritten something, and like so it's not about maybe how you would want something. You've got to be perceptive of, and that's for each individual client. Like we've got clients here who like if I picked up the phone to speak to them, they'd be like, oh,
why are you ringing me?
Yeah, don't ring me.
Must be bad news.
But I've got other clients that if I don't ring them every week, they'd be like, I'm feeling ignored. Like I'm not feeling like I'm being heard.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing when you're trying to connect with your customers, is it's not one size fits all, and it can be. You can have a situation where like, this is how we communicate. Is that okay? So they know at the outset. This is what they're signing up to, but I think you kind of filter yourself too fine with that. You're squeezing it a bit too much, and actually, some people prefer a text message, some people prefer an email, some people prefer a voice note.
We've done it both ways, where it's been like this is the only way that we ever communicate, and then we've opened it back up, and the latter just works way better.
It's easier. We used to think we were saving ourselves hassle, and we're not.
Because the hassle just comes further down the line.
People leave.
Yeah.
People go, oh, you never contact me. We've WhatsApped you every day for 6 weeks. I don't read WhatsApp. Game over. Like, and so they're not wrong. We're not wrong. But I think the tactical advantage is to figure out how people like to be seen and heard. So what would be like a tool or strategy to make, other than AI that we've discussed, to make yourself a better listener? I've just done that thing to put you on the spot.
You've just done that thing to me. I mean, this is actually not listening, but like if you feel like you're not listening in a conversation, or you want someone to open up more, a good tactic I always use is like repeating the last few words that they said to you. So like, oh, I'm going on holiday next year. You go, are you going on holiday next year? I go, oh yeah, I'm going to Portugal. Going to Portugal? Yeah, because I just love I love Portuguese food. You love Portuguese food? Yeah, it's like you really open them up to like.
That sounds bananas. Surely you have to do it more subtly than that. Like exactly that.
People do it to you, and you won't know if you don't know they're doing it.
Yeah, and it's it's like, oh, I'm going on holiday next year. Oh, where are you going? Just like batting it back and acknowledging that you've heard what they've said is a real skill that gets people to keep going. And like one of the questions I ask in interview, and I've been doing a lot of it recently, is like, what's your favourite film and why? And people initially will be like, oh, it's Hook. Why? I love pirates. Okay, why do you love pirates? Oh, I love pirates because I used to think I'd love to live at sea on a wooden boat. Why would you want to live at sea on a wooden boat? well, it's just romantic, isn't it? And my dad was a carpenter, and he was called Noah, so he loved building boats. And on it goes. So like, you can dig into things to make people feel heard, but the thing you need to do next as a supplier, so that they don't feel like it was in one ear and out the other, is then take action on something they said early. Because if they're like, oh, I just needed a report on how well my website's running, but every agency I've ever approached just say, oh yeah, we can do that in due course. That's your win there. Like, get that back to them within 24 hours and they'll feel heard and be like, oh, I'm in safe hands.
Yeah. Or one I always have is like people like, oh, I've got too many emails. I can't. If you need something to be actioned, WhatsApp me. It's like, oh, here's my WhatsApp because you said you don't really use emails. Like straight away, you've got that direct line to them.
And they're like, what? I can message you this anytime. Yeah. It's like, just like giving people the opportunity to be heard. And then like, I guess like active listening is a big one as well, where if you find yourself in an environment where everybody's opinion matters, which, you know, it does anyway. But
springs to mind, opinions are like arseholes. Everybody's got one.
Yeah. But let's say we're feeling friendly and everyone's opinion matters that day.
Yeah.
The best way is to give people space to communicate and take an active listening role in the meeting. And some people communicate vocally, some people communicate by being given time to write things down, some people communicate through their actions. And so you have to get, like, if you don't know I do this, but when we do a monthly meeting, there'll normally be a demo, there'll normally be a period of things where I get you all to write stuff down, and there'll normally be a discussion, because different people absorb and communicate in different ways, and I have to factor in all the different personalities.
I remember when I was at school, you did like, there was loads of different learning types, wasn't there? Like someone who has to be shown, someone who has to do it, somebody who's better reading it.
Yeah, like we use EDGE as a management technique here. So educate, demonstrate, guide, empower. Educate being show them how and why. Demonstrate, do it in front of them. Guide, watch them do it but sit on their shoulder. Empower, leave them to do it themselves. And
that final E is so hard.
Everyone forgets to do that. Everybody forgets to do that. Or they miss the guide. So it's like, well, I've shown you, why can't you fucking do it now? It's like, well, hang on, you need to sit with them and let them do it a couple of times before. And sometimes like employees can feel unheard because you've left them high and dry. They're like, they're in the deep end and they don't know how to swim. And you know, some employers will do that on purpose, but I think most people prefer it when you give them the opportunity to do a run through.
Yeah.
Cool. So what would be your key thing, Mar, for making sure people are heard? Like what environments, what kind of areas? Like sales pitch is an obvious one, kickoff meetings an obvious one. But like, what do you employ to make sure people are heard, that people listening to this could take away?
Fred's old technique, which is see, smile, say hello.
Who the fuck's Fred?
Well, I don't know what his last name is.
Siri X.
That's the one.
That's
Jungle Fred. What was he originally famous for? What was
First
he in the
Dates
jungle?
Fred, right?
First Dates Fred. Daughter's a Diver Fred.
Daughter's a Diver Fred. That sounds terrible.
Oh, no. Do not clip that up for reals.
Olympic diver. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, so Fred Siriax, Fred, Gino, and Gordon. Fred.
Yeah. He wears many hats.
Fred of many Freds. Yeah. Bloody hell, Fred. Yeah, he says see, smile, say hello. So like, I literally have struggled so much on this podcast. Like,
what is so funny? I've never laughed that much in my life.
I don't know. I might just go for a little stroll out there and see what's going on before we record the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can make people feel seen, if you can make them feel like it's warm through a smile, if you can say hello, that goes a long way. And then if you can actively listen to what they have to say, even if it's hard to hear, so maybe they don't communicate as well as you'd like them to or whatever.
Maybe there's someone screaming outside.
Maybe there's someone screaming and giggling next to a sign that says recording in progress. You will go far with what you're trying to do in that relationship. And I think sometimes less things go wrong when people feel heard.
Or they can like see that, like, it's a trust thing as well, right? Like, I always don't think in marketing, like, campaigns don't go wrong. It's more gathering data so that we can make it better. But if you don't have that trust there because they haven't felt heard or seen initially, then to them it has gone wrong. Like, it's all perception. Like, perception is reality.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, marketing is data like a lot of marketing is data, particularly digital marketing. So it's like, this campaign is running, it is getting leads. You might not be happy with the price per lead at the moment, but we've got a starting point to measure from. Now let's work to get the price per lead down. Great. The leads aren't converting into inquiries. Right, well, let's go look at what happens after you get the lead. And if you've got trust and the person feels heard, that gives you more time to
get them there.
If you haven't got trust, if the person doesn't feel heard, if you've ignored something they've said, you're going to cut the amount of time you've got to get them to where you need to get them.
You're almost starting like a step behind
Mm-hmm.
zero.
Yeah, we've just had it with a supplier where they can't understand how 1 minute I can be happy with something and the next minute I'm not. And it's like, well, because if you get me a result, I'm happy. But if you do something I told you not to do, I'm unhappy. It's as simple as that. It's not like I'm Jekyll and Hyde. It's, if we get the result, I'm happy. If you're doing something I've told you not to do, I'm unhappy. It's not like, there's no complicated, like, bloody hell, 1 minute he's happy, 1 minute he's not.
Because it would almost be better if there was no result, but that thing that you told them not to do hadn't have happened. Because it's like, oh, okay, right, so even if it was like, now let's do that then. It would be better to do it that way.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we'll start this way first, and then I think maybe this would be better, but let's do it this way first. Okay, great, now let's try it this way.
Yeah.
Always going to work better than, actually, I know this is going to work better, because if it doesn't...
And I'd rather you didn't take the job on if you disagreed with me in the first place. So if I said, please don't do this, and you've said, well, we've got to, then don't take the job on.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't go as well as you think it will, I'm going to come back to that thing that I told you not to do and feel unheard.